In the very first verse of 1 Samuel chapter 19, we read that Saul's son Jonathan, quote, delighted much in David. Just one chapter earlier, the text tells us that the souls of David and Jonathan were, quote, knit together, and that Jonathan, quote, loved David as himself. I realize that much ink has been spilled in an attempt to prove that there was a homosexual relationship here. And I want to be clear, I do not believe that that was the case at all. The Hebrew word that is translated love is much like the English word love in that it has a range of meanings. For example, in 1 Samuel chapter 18, verse 16, we see that all of Israel and Judah loved David. Then 4 verses later, we read that David's wife Michal loved him. In all 3 places, the same word is used. We are familiar with this. We can rightly say that we love our spouse and our car or dog or vacation, job or best friend, and everyone instinctively knows what we mean. The same is true in these verses. David and Jonathan portray for us a picture of genuine friendship. They're roughly the same age, they're both successful warriors, they're powerful, influential men. It makes sense that they would form a close friendship and even pledge to support and care for and serve each other. I think what bothers me about this passage is that for whatever reason, our culture has seemed to devalue or delegitimize these types of friendships. It's as if we're told that real men don't need soul-to-soul relationships with other men, or that somehow these types of friendships must have some kind of a homoerotic component to them. Both of those ideas are categorically false and have, I believe, caused great harm to men specifically, but also to society in general. David was powerful and independent. He was a lover and a poet. He was a warrior and a king, a rebel and an outcast. He was tender and ruthless, and he was far from perfect. But he knew that he needed real friends, friends who cared about him and looked out for him, friends to laugh with and cry with, friends to correct him and guide him. And the point is that we do too. These types of relationships are to be a present characteristic of believers. Consider what 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 22 and 23 tell us. They say, having purified your souls by your obedience to the truth for a sincere brotherly love, love one another earnestly from a pure heart, since you have been born again, not of perishable seed, but of imperishable, through the living and abiding Word of God. Note that instead of being something to look down upon or to shy away from, friendships marked by brotherly love are to be a part of a believer's life. Elsewhere, we're told that we are to bear each other's burdens, to sharpen and encourage each other, to support each other, to sacrificially love each other. These things are impossible to accomplish absent soul-to-soul relationships. And all of us, and especially men, should nurture these types of God-honoring friendships. Remember also that ultimately David points us to Jesus. Jesus, who is the most complete man that ever lived. Jesus, who is the friend that sticks closer than a brother. Jesus, who perfectly displays what real love looks like. Jesus, who in love gave his life for us. There is no better definition of love and delight than him. And so as you read these chapters today, don't shy away from the description of the relationship between Jonathan and David. Rather, allow them to point you towards the greater David, that is Jesus. And pray that God would work in your heart and give you relationships that are built upon sincere brotherly love. As always, may God love you, may God bless you, and continue to watch over you.